My name's Joshua North, and my specific purpose is to persuade my audience to support upgrading public parks and playgrounds to prevent unnecessary heat-related injuries. $200 million. That's a projection based off a claims stat report by the New York City Comptroller's Office on how much the U.S. could spend every year in lawsuits related to playground injuries, many of them involving contact burns and other heat-related injuries. As a parent of two young, energetic children that love using outdoor playgrounds, I've been to a lot of parks across the country. Unfortunately, many of these playgrounds are completely unusable because they're just too hot to play on. They're dangerous. And this is a problem that's widespread across the country. And it's been largely ignored. But after looking at the root causes of these issues and ways to mitigate these hazards, and taking a look at what other cities and organizations are doing to help control these hazards, we have no choice but to make playground safety a priority. For us to be better equipped to make positive change for our children, we have to take a look at what those root causes are. Naturally, most heat-related injuries occur during the summer, especially during the hottest part of the day. According to a report by the National Program for Playground Safety on sun exposure, only 3% of playgrounds across the country have adequate shade during this time, with 67% of them having no shade at all. This lack of shade leads to increased surface temperatures, which increase the risk of contact burns. To make matters worse, there's a lack of available drinking water available at these playgrounds. And this can lead to dehydration, which is a leading cause for other heat-related injuries like heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. And these types of injuries are serious. They can lead to permanent damage or even death. Clearly, something has to be done. But recognizing the root causes is only the first step. Identifying ways to mitigate these hazards is the next. And depending on how quickly and how much funding is available will help us determine what path is the best path to go down. Providing adequate shade is the most straightforward way to do this. One option is to install shade structures, and they come in a variety of shapes and sizes, and they provide immediate relief from the harmful effects of the sun. Unfortunately, they can be very costly. So a less expensive alternative is planting trees. And according to a report by David Bueller and his associates in 2017 on the impact of shade on playgrounds, we see that effective shade in the form of trees can reduce the risk of contact burns by over 90%. This is significant, and it makes planting shade trees a viable option. And while it might take some time for them to grow large enough to provide that adequate shade, it is an option when funding is more restricted. Apart from shade, proper hydration is another way to combat the harmful effects of heat exposure. And here we see a work-rest water consumption chart developed by the U.S. Army Center for Health Promotion and Preventative Medicine. And what we see here is a recommendation for the amount of water someone should consume while performing different types of work at various temperatures on a day that's at least 90 degrees, which is very common in Georgia during the summer. Someone doing moderate or hard work, something equivalent to calisthenics or energetic play at a playground, should consume at least 1 quart of water every hour. And that's if they're only doing that activity for 10 minutes and resting for 50. Kids don't play like that. They play non-stop until it's time to leave. How much more water should they be consuming to stay on top of their hydration needs? And unfortunately, most kids at the playground aren't bringing their own sources of water. So there's some ways to address those hydration issues. One of them is building water fountains. And this, similar to shade structures, provides that immediate solution to the problem, but is also expensive. So the lower cost option is initiating shade hydration initiatives. And this equips the local community with education and sometimes equipment to better address their own hydration needs. But similar to planting trees, this can take some time to gain traction with the local community, but it is a viable option, again, when funding is more restricted. And while these solutions may seem common sense, drinking water and building shade, they can be difficult to implement. So we can look to some examples of what other organizations and cities are doing and have done to give us a template for what we could do ourselves. Samford University in Alabama started the SunSmart initiative that saw them plant 250 trees across their campus to provide shade for their student body. And within a year they had raised over $30,000 to support their efforts. And while this was done at a university campus, this could easily be adapted to providing the shade needs for our public playgrounds and parks. And similarly, we have the American Academy of Dermatology that has the Shade Structure Grant Program that awards up to $8,000 for building shade structures at public recreation areas like swimming pools, parks, and playgrounds. To address the issue of hydration, Hoboken, New Jersey started the Hoboken Hydration Station Initiative. And this saw the city partnering with local businesses to allow people to come into their establishments to refill their reusable water bottles for free. And these are just a few of many examples that are out there that we could use to help us make that transition for safer parks. And so what's that mean for us? Now that we have seen the root causes of these issues and have looked at some ways to mitigate those hazards, and we have examples as templates that we can use to address these issues ourselves, we can no longer ignore this problem. Our children deserve better. They deserve a safe place to go and play, not hazardous, dangerous playground equipment that can send them to the emergency room. But it's up to us to make it happen. They can't fix this problem themselves. It's our responsibility to make safe playgrounds a reality.